Working at height means that an individual is working in a place that requires necessary precautions to prevent them from falling at a distance, resulting in serious injury. Do you know injuries from working at height is one of the most prominent and leading single cause of workplace fatalities and lost time injuries? You are watching Safety First, and today's HSC tutorial's topic is working at height. I'm your host, Javed. As usual, if you are new on this channel, kindly subscribe the channel. And if you find the video informative, then like and share. Let us look what is the meaning of working at height. Working in any place where, if precautions are not taken, a person could fall and injure themselves. Working at height means you don't have to fall from a great height to be hurt. So be aware, falls from height and falling objects are the biggest cause of death on work sites. This includes places above ground level, at or below ground level, or at very low height. What is work at height? Working on a scaffold or MEWP, mobile elevated work platform, or man lift basket. Working on the back of a lorry, using cradles or ropes to gain access, climbing permanent structures such as gantries, working close to excavations, cellars, or other openings, and working by using a ladder. All these are the examples of working at height. Let us look what is working platform. This is a very common term used in the domain of working at height. Any platform used as a place of work or as a means of access to or egress from a place of work. Any scaffold, suspended scaffold, cradle, mobile platform, trestle, gangway, gantry, or stairway, which is so used but doesn't include a building or other permanent structure. Let us look what to do while working at height. All work at height is properly planned and organized. Have to ensure those workers who are involved in work at height are competent, experienced, and skilled. The risks from work at height are assessed and appropriate work equipment is selected and used. The risks of working on or near fragile surfaces are properly managed. The equipment used for work at height is properly inspected and maintained. Use the right equipment for the task. Make sure it is in good condition. Make sure the surface you are placing the equipment on is stable. Make sure the surface you are placing the equipment on is stable and that equipment can be set up properly. Dear fellows, let us go through the requirements for working at heights. No person may work in any unguarded area or place where the possibility exists that he or she may fall 2 meters or more unless they are protected from injury by the use of fall protection equipment that is connected to an approved anchor point. The danger zone below the position at which people are working is elevated position, must be demarcated with yellow and black strip barrier tape or hand barricading in order to restrict normal access to this area. The workers must be trained and found competent in the correct use of fall protection equipment. Be authorized in writing to use such equipment by having a certificate of training and pre-work hazard identification and risk assessment must always be carried out before working at heights, which must include tools and equipment that will be required. State the measures to prevent tools and equipment from falling from heights and any other securing methods determined as needed for this purpose. No person may work alone where the use of fall protection equipment is required in order to allow for at least one person always being present who can call for assistance in the event of an emergency. When a person is working at heights, he or she must always wear a hard hat fitted with a chin strap, in addition to the normal personal protective equipment and the spider web harness. Let us look what is the difference between fall arrest and fall restraint systems. Firstly, fall arrest system. It requires full body harness, lanyard, lifelines, either vertical or horizontal, anchor points, shock absorbers, deceleration devices, and drop lines. It's a system to prevent injuries by means of arresting an inadvertent fall, by preventing a person from hitting the ground at a high speed. Let us look. What are the requirements for a fall restraint system? Full body harness, lanyard, lifeline, either vertical or horizontal, and anchorage points. It is a system preventing injuries by means of preventing a person who works within 2 meters from the edge of a height from inadvertently falling off the edge. Let us look what is anchorage point. First, anchor points for connecting harness lanyard for routine work are marked as 22.2 kN or 500 pounds for a single person. The anchorage point must be load tested and properly designed for the purpose. The following may not be used as anchor points because their design strength will not arrest a fall. Ladder rungs, cable trays, steel or plastic piping, untested and unmarked handrails or handrail support pertaining to full body harness, lanyards, shock absorbers, and connectors. Persons required to use these type of fall arrest equipment must be trained in the correct use thereof. If a trained person is unsure of anything, he must refer to his training material and ask his foreman or supervisor for additional coaching in such a case. The fall arrest equipment must be checked before using the standard checklist for this purpose. The correct inspection color code. If tag is found to be incorrect or any other defect was identified on the equipment, don't use it, but tag it danger, unsuitable for use, and take it back to the responsible rigger for inspection or remove it from the site. Let us look what about the lifelines? Persons required to make use of lifelines must always maintain a positive connection with the lifeline. The compulsory use of dual Y-type lanyards allow for a positive connection to be maintained while crossing intermediate lifeline anchor points. Working directly above persons who are anchored to a lifeline is not permitted. Let us look at the specifications of vertical lifelines. Persons required to make use of vertical lifeline must use a lanyard which has external connection to the safety harness without a shock absorber, which allows for minimal free fall distance to be connected to the lifeline's lock and arrest device. Before using the system, it's essential that you have been instructed and assessed competent in the correct use of the lock and arrest device. One of the requirements to work at height is scaffolding. When persons are working within the safety of guardrails of an approved scaffold or elevated work platform, the use of fall arrest equipment is not required. But if the work being carried out requires that any person leans through, against, over, or behind the safety of the guardrails, then such persons are required to use fall arrest equipment. When any work is performed from any scaffold, persons required to use the scaffold should know scaffold must only be used for the purpose for which it was erected. The safe loading of the scaffold, the load of the persons, equipment, and machinery will be displayed on the safe to use scaffold notice. That unauthorized alteration shall not be made to the scaffold. The scaffold must never be accessed by climbing up on the outside of the scaffold. Only the access ladder installed on the inside of the scaffold may be used. Trapdoors placed at platform landing openings are safety devices. that prevent persons, tools, or equipment from falling through the opening. Therefore, any person who opens a trapdoor in order to access or egress from a platform must close the trapdoor behind them. Working platforms need to be kept clear from debris and obstructions, especially at platform ladder access and egress points. Only a scaffold that has been declared safe for use by the designated scaffold inspector may be accessed. Scaffold that has been declared unsafe must never be accessed. Incomplete or defective scaffold must never be accessed and used. You are watching Safety First, and today's topic is working at height. Let us continue the requirements for working at height safely, where movable scaffolds supported by caster wheels are used. Person required to use these scaffolds should know the scaffold must remain level and plumb at all times. The scaffold must never be accessed until all casters are locked to prevent movements. The scaffold positions must never be moved while anyone is on the scaffold. The scaffold should be kept well clear from overhead power lines, open floor edges, floor holes, and a soft base, soft soil that is unable to support the scaffold. Let us look elevating work platform. The following equipment fall under elevated work platforms but are not limited to these: scissor lifts, hydraulic boom lifts, cherry pickers, and travel towers. When using an elevated work platform, the following conditions must be complied with. A pre-work hazard identification and risk assessment must be conducted. Clearance to work permit must be obtained from the responsible operator. The responsible person authorized to operate the elevating work platform must be in attendance at all times. Personal safety harness must be attached by all persons in the elevating work platform. All persons in the elevating work platform must wear a hard hat secured with a chin strap. The method by which tools and equipment are secured to prevent them from falling must be in place. The danger zone below must be barricaded with yellow or black strip tape or hard barricading. A journal pre-work inspection must be carried out on the elevating work platform by authorized operator. No person may attempt to leave the work platform while being lifted. Where a mobile elevating platform is used, the machine must be stable ground, correctly positioned with the parking brakes engaged. Let us look how to use man lift basket. The following equipment fall under work basket but are not limited to these: work box, bosun chairs, cradle, cage, any other similar arrangement from a cradle in order to provide elevated work access to persons. When a person has to use a work basket, a pre-work hazard identification and risk assessment must be conducted. A clearance to work permit must be obtained from the responsible operator. A rescue plan to retrieve any person stuck at a suspended work basket must be in place. The responsible rigger and responsible supervisor must be in attendance at all times at the work site. All persons on the work basket must attach their personal harness to the crane hook or temporary anchor attached to the crane hook. All persons in the work basket must wear a hard hat secured with a chin strap. You are watching Safety First, and today's topic is working at height. Let us continue the requirements working at height safely. A method by which tools and equipment are secured must be in place to prevent them from falling. The danger zone below must be barricaded with yellow and black strip and hard barricading. A general pre-work inspection must be carried out on the crane by the crane operator and on the work basket by the responsible rigger. No person may attempt to leave the work basket while in an elevated position. The crane must be on stable ground with the parking brakes engaged and outriggers correctly deployed. Maintain three-point contact at all times. carrying tools in an approved and safe manner that doesn't interfere with you maintaining a three-point contact while using the ladder. Ensure that a safe and approved method is used for raising and lowering of equipment or heavy tools from one landing to the following, where work is carried out on an elevated platform that is accessed by means of a fixed ladder. To know more about the use of portable ladders, kindly click the link that is appearing on your screen. This is about the ladder safety, how to use the ladder in a project, in a construction site, safely and effectively. Let us look at the high risk type of works. Those are related to working at height, scaffolding, mechanical or electrical installations, excavations, steel erections, or construction painting work. Let us look at the hazards of elevated work platform, hazards of falling person, hazards of falling objects, material, means of access and egress, and material handling. These are the top hazards. Those are related to the elevated work. Let us look at the primary fall prevention systems, handrails, guardrails, toe boards, and standard platform. Remember, all openings must be properly covered or barricaded at all times during the construction activity at the project site. A guardrail must be capable of withstanding 200 pounds of horizontal or vertical force. Top rail 39 to 45 inches high. Toe board must be 4 inches and having the capacity to stand 50 pounds horizontal force. Let us look working platforms and their access. Use a safe working platform, permanent platform, man lift, scissor lift, or approved scaffold. Check scaffold tags before use. No unauthorized alteration. Grating removal permit for removal or modification. Full body harness must be worn always 2 meters and above, and it should be 100% tie off. Let us look now the means of access and egress. Ladders shall be inspected regularly. Ladders shall be extended 3 feet above the working platform at 4:1 for safe slope. Secure the ladder. Ensure three-point connection while using ladder. Hold the handrail while using staircase. Ladders should not be defective and must be inspected on daily basis and especially prior to use it. Let us go through the safety rules. Those are applied to work at height. The regulations apply to all work at height where there is a risk of a fall liable to cause personal injury. They place duties on employers or the self-employed or any person who controls the work of others. If you are an employee or working under someone else's control, Regulation 14 says you must report any safety hazard to them. Use the equipment supplied, including safety devices, properly. Following any training or instructions, unless you think that would be unsafe, in which case you should seek further instructions before continuing. Let us look at the duties of employer. Duty holders must avoid work at height where they can. Use work equipment or other measures to prevent falls where they cannot avoid working at height, and where they cannot eliminate the risk of a fall, use work equipment or other measures to minimize the distance and consequences of a fall should one occur. Duty holders are responsible that all work at height is properly planned and organized. All work at height takes account of weather conditions that could endanger health and safety. Those involved in work at height are trained and competent. The place where work at height is done is safe. Equipment for work at height is appropriately inspected and controlled. The risk from fragile surfaces are properly controlled, and the risk from falling objects are properly controlled and maintained. Just remember, a risk assessment is to be written to control the hazards. Do the work at height regulation ban the use of ladders? Short answer for that is no, but they require that ladders should only be considered where a risk assessment has shown that the use of other more suitable work equipment is not appropriate because of the low risk and short duration of the task or consideration of where the work is located. Gentlemen, let us go through the strategy to select the right equipment. When selecting equipment for working at height, employer must provide the most suitable equipment appropriate for the work. Take account of factors such as the work conditions, weather, the nature, frequency, and duration of the work, the risks to the safety of everyone where the work equipment will be used. What are the most common causes of accidents when working at height? Roof work is high risk and falls from roofs through fragile roofs and fragile roof lights are one of the most common causes of workplace deaths and serious injuries, as well as in construction. These accidents can also occur on roofs of factories, buildings, warehouses, and farm buildings when roof repair work or cleaning is being carried out. What to consider when planning work at height? The following are requirements in law that you need to consider when planning and undertaking work at height. You must take account of weather conditions that could compromise worker safety. Check that the place roof where work at height is to be undertaken is safe. Each place where people will work at height needs to be checked every time before use. Stop materials or objects from falling or if it is not reasonably practicable to prevent objects falling, take suitable and sufficient measures to make sure no one can injure. For example, use exclusion zones to keep people away or mesh on scaffold to stop materials such as bricks falling off. Store materials and objects safely so they wouldn't cause injury if they are disturbed or collapsed. Plan for emergencies and rescue. Agree a set procedure for evacuation. Think about foreseeable situations and make sure employees know the emergency procedures. Don't just rely entirely on the emergency services for rescue in your plan. Let us look how to avoid work at height accidents. Do as much work as possible from the ground. Some practical examples include using extendable tools from ground level to remove the need to climb a ladder, installing cables at ground level, lowering a lighting mast to ground level, ground level assembly of edge protection. Can you prevent a fall from occurring? If no, go to minimize. You can do this by using an existing place of work that is already safe. For example, a non-fragile roof with a permanent perimeter guardrail, or if not, using work equipment to prevent people from falling. Some practical examples for collective protection when using an existing place of work: a concrete flat roof with existing edge protection, or guarded mezzanine floor, a plant or machinery with fixed guardrails around it. Some practical examples of collective protection using work equipment to prevent a fall: mobile elevating work platform, scissor lifts, tower scaffolds, an example of personal protection using work equipment to prevent a fall, using a work restraint, travel restriction system that prevents a worker getting into a fall position. If the risk of a person falling remains, you must take sufficient measures to minimize the distance or consequences of a fall. Practical examples of collective protection using work equipment to minimize the distance and the consequences of a fall: you must use safety nets or soft landing systems, airbags installed close to the level of the work. An example of personal protection used to minimize the distance and consequences of a fall: industrial rope access, for example, working on a building fall arrest system using a high anchor point. How to avoid work at height accidents: using ladders and step ladders for tasks of low risk and short duration. Ladders and step ladders can be sensible and practical options. If your risk assessment determines it is correct to use a ladder, you should further minimize the risk by making sure workers use the right type of ladder for the job. Workers are competent. You can provide adequate training or supervision to help. Use the equipment provided safely and follow a safe system of work. And the workers are fully aware of the risks and measures to help control them. What must be done by the employees while working at height? Employees have general legal duty to take reasonable care of themselves and others who may be affected by their actions, and to cooperate with their employer to enable their health and safety duties and requirements to be complied with. For an employee or those working under someone else's control, the law says they must report any safety hazard they identify to their employer. Use the equipment and safety devices supplied or given to them properly in accordance with the training and instruction, unless they think that would be unsafe, in which case they should seek further instruction before continuing. You must consult other employees either directly or via safety representatives in good time on health and safety issues and matters. Issues you must consult employees on include risk arising from their work, proposals to manage and or control these risks, best ways of providing information and training. Employers can ask employees and their representatives what they think the hazards are, or they may notice things that are not obvious and may have some good practical ideas on how to control the risks. Let us look the golden rules to follow while working at height to keep the project accident free. Number one, make sure edge protection is in place. Screens, guardrails, netting, or toe boards are in place and effectively installed. Rule number two, barricading. Barricade of dangerous areas, excavations, openings, ground below scaffolding and platforms. Rule number three, make sure you are trained and authorized to work in the area and with the equipment that is potentially high risk work, that is work at height. Rule number four, pack materials away neatly and keep work areas clean and walkways clear. Rule number five, wear protective clothing and equipment which is being provided as per the approved method statement and as per the requirement of safe system of work, a safe work procedure. Rule number six, make sure your safety harness is in good condition and hooked up to a secure anchor point that is load tested. The higher the anchor point, the shorter the fall. Rule number seven, make sure ladders are secure and in good condition. Only use ladder for a short duration of work as per HSC UK. Less than 30 minutes ladder can be used for the task. Rule number 8, keep tools from falling and causing injury by using them to your wrist or belt. Dear fellows, have a look practically. The examples of while people they are working at site, working on unsafe platform, not wearing full body harness, there is no edge protection, and there is chances of fall from height that will ultimately result with potential deadly consequences, fracture or lost time injury. Another example, working at height without using the ladder and not wearing full body harness. The person is standing just on the sides of the shutters, and this is the indication the worker and the monkey have no difference in this condition while working at height. Another example, working at height without safe working platform and full body harness, chances of fall from height with serious injury. Another example, unsafe action condition, working at height without safe working platform and not using full body harness properly. The worker is wearing the harness just to show or just to deceive and cheat the HSE practitioners. But in the case if he will fall from height, this fall protection, this fall arrest system, this safety harness will not work at all because it is not properly worn. Working at height without safe working platform and not using full body harness properly. How much the height is? More than 10 meters. And there is no platform. Monkey climbing again. Gentlemen, these are the consequences of ignoring the safety instructions or neglecting the safe system of work, potential serious injury. Let us look the hierarchy of control measures while working at height. Number one, elimination. Don't do a job at height if you can't do it on the ground. Number two, substitution. Substitute all defective or dangerous equipment with new or safer equipment. Number three, engineering control. Isolation. Try to design out risks and eliminate them altogether. Number four, administrative controls. Use signs and exclusion zones to keep people out of dangerous areas. Implement permit to work system. Provide a safe pedestrian walking way that should not be affected by the construction activities. The last resort of controls is personal protective equipment. Safety harnesses should be in good condition and shall be used by trained workers at all times while working at height, in addition to other personal protective equipment that is relevant and required as per the task, as per the nature of the activity. Let us look what to do and what should not do while working at heights. Do as much work as you can while you are on the ground. Do make sure that the employees can safely move to and from the area where they are working at height. Do ensure that the equipment that you are using for the job is strong, stable, and suitable enough to get the job done. Inspect and maintain them regularly. Do be careful when you are working near to a fragile surface. Do ensure that you are protected from falling objects. To make preparations for emergency evacuations and rescues. In short, fall protection, fall restraint, fall arrest, and fall rescue plans are required prior to start working at heights projects. Don't overload the ladders that they are working on with equipment or materials. Don't try to reach too far when you are on a ladder or step ladder. Don't use ladders or step ladders for strenuous or heavy tasks. Only use them for light work or short duration, a maximum of 30 minutes at a time. Don't let anyone who is not competent, who doesn't have the skills, knowledge, and experience to do the job while working at height. Don't lean or place the ladder on a fragile upper surfaces. And lastly, don't stay quiet when you feel someone is compromising his own safety or the safety of others. Dear friends, fellows, and colleagues, always remember the ABC of working at heights, where A for anchorage, B for body wear, and C for connecting device. Please don't be a fool. Protect yourself by using proper tools. When working at heights and an unprotected edge is near, don't be brave. Your next step could lead to a grave. For restraint will give you the edge to keep you living. Kindly use your own brain to avoid strain, or finally unbearable pain. दोस्तों, HSC ट्रेनिंग सेशन में खुश आमदीद। आज का हमारा टॉपिक है वर्किंग एट हाइट। मैं हूं आपका होस्ट जावेद। اور آپ دیکھ رہے ہیں سیفٹی فرسٹ. اگر آپ چینل پہ نئے ہیں تو ایز یوزول چینل کو سبسکرائب کیجیے اور اگر ویڈیو اچھی لگے تو اسے لائک اور شیئر ضرور کیجیے گا. ورک ایٹ ہائٹ کا مطلب ہے بلندی یا اونچائی پر کھڑے ہو کر کام کرنا. اونچائی پر کام کرنے سے مراد وہ کام سیم فلور پر بھی ہو سکتا ہے، اوپر والے فلور پر بھی ہو سکتا ہے، کسی اوپننگ کے پاس بھی ہو سکتا ہے، کسی کھدائی یعنی ایکسکاویشن کے کنارے پر بھی ہو سکتا ہے، کسی لفٹ پر، کسی سیڑھی پر یا کسی اسکپ فولڈنگ پر چڑھ کر. یہ سارے کام ایسے ہیں کہ جو ورک ایٹ ہائٹ کی کیٹیگری میں شمار ہوتے ہیں. قانون کی نظر میں 2 میٹر کی اونچائی ورک ایٹ ہائٹ کہلاتی ہے، مگر قانون ساتھ ہی ساتھ یہ بھی واضح کرتا ہے کہ بلندی پر ہر اس کام کو شمار کیا جائے گا جہاں اگر سیفٹی پریکاشنز کو اڈاپٹ نہ کیا جائے تو بندے کے گرنے اور گرنے کے نتیجے میں چوٹ لگنے کا اندیشہ ہو. یقیناً آپ جانتے ہوں گے کہ پوری دنیا میں ورک سائٹس کے اندر انجریز، فیٹیلیٹیز اور LTIs کا سب سے بڑا سبب ورک ایٹ ہائٹ ہی ہے، اور یہ سال ہر سال سے نمبر 1 کاز کے طور پر اپنی پوزیشن پر مضبوطی اور کنسسٹنسی سے آگے کی جانب رواں دواں دکھائی دیتا ہے. دنیا نے ترقی کر لی، انڈسٹری کی وجہ سے معاشی انقلاب آ گیا، سائنس کی ترقی نے ہمیں چاند تاروں سے بھی آگے والے جہانوں تک پہنچا دیا. ٹیلی کمیونیکیشن ہو یا پھر رسل و رسائل، سب کچھ بہت بدل چکا. لیکن ان سب کے باوجود بھی اعداد و شمار بتاتے ہیں کہ ترقی یافتہ ممالک ہوں یا ترقی پذیر، ورکنگ ایٹ ہائٹ سے زخمی ہونے والوں، معذور ہونے والوں اور مرنے والوں کی تعداد میں کمی کے بجائے اضافہ ہوتا جا رہا ہے. بلندی پر کام وقت کی ضرورت ہے، ترقی اور خوشحالی کی ضمانت ہے. اسے چھوڑا تو نہیں جا سکتا، مگر آج ہم ڈسکس کرنے والے ہیں کہ آخر کن وجوہ کے باعث لوگ کام کے دوران گر کر یا تو مر جاتے ہیں یا پھر کسی معذوری کا شکار ہو کر ان کی زندگی کے ماہ و سال روشنی سے اندھیروں کی نظر ہو جاتے ہیں. اور اگر وہ کون سی اسٹریٹجی یا پالیسی یا پلان کو فالو کریں تو وہ اور ان کی فیملیز کو ان تکلیف اور صدموں سے بچایا جا سکتا ہے. سب سے پہلے ہائٹ پر کام کرتے ہوئے بندہ کہاں کہاں سے گر سکتا ہے. کسی بھی چھت کی اوپننگ سے، کسی بھی ان گارڈڈ ایج سے، کسی بھی انکمپلیٹ ورکنگ پلیٹ فارم سے، کسی بھی اسکیفولڈنگ سے، کسی بھی ایلیویٹڈ پلیٹ فارم سے، کسی سیڑھی پر چڑھ کے کام کرتے ہوئے، اسکیفولڈنگ اسٹرکچر کے کولیپس ہونے سے یا پھر مین لفٹ باسکٹ سے. لیکن سوال یہ ہے کہ کام کرنے والا خود کو گرانے کے لیے تو کام پر نہیں جاتا، مگر پھر بھی حادثے یعنی ایکسیڈنٹس رونما ہوتے ہیں. اس کی بھی درجنوں وجوہات ہوتی ہیں. مثال کے طور پہ ورک ایریا کا سیف نہ ہونا، ورکنگ پلیٹ فارم کا سیف نہ ہونا، کام کرنے والوں کا یعنی ورکرز کا ٹرینڈ نہ ہونا، سیف ورکنگ پروسیجرز کا امپلیمنٹ نہ ہونا، ہائی رسک ٹاسکس کو پریورٹائز نہ کرنا، پرسنل پروٹیکٹیو اکوپمنٹ کو مہیا نہ کرنا، اور اگر پرسنل پروٹیکٹیو اکوپمنٹ مہیا کیا گیا ہے تو اس کے درست استعمال کا طریقہ نہ آنا، پرمٹ ٹو ورک سسٹم کو اگنور کرنا یا پھر سرے سے امپلیمنٹ ہی نہ کرنا، ریسورسز کی عدم دستیابی، مثال کے طور پر دنوں، ہفتوں اور مہینوں کے دورانیے والے کام کو لیڈرز کی مدد سے کرنا، اور اسکیفولڈنگ ارینجمنٹ کے بجائے ایکسٹرا بجٹ یا پروجیکٹ کلاسز کا نام دے کر رائے فرار اختیار کرنا. اگر اسکیفولڈنگ موجود ہے تو اس کی امپراپر ایریکشن، اس کی انکمپلیٹ پوزیشن، اس کا انسپیکشن نہ ہونا، لیڈرز کا درست استعمال نہ کرنا یا پھر ڈیمیج لیڈرز کو ورک سائٹ پر یوز کرنا، فال اریسٹ، فال پروٹیکشن اور فال ریسٹینٹ میں کوئی تفریق نہ کرنا، اور پروجیکٹ کی نوعیت، کام کی ضرورت اور ورکرز کی صلاحیت کے حساب سے انتظامات نہ کرنا، کام کو پراپرلی پلان نہ کرنا، میتھڈ اسٹیٹمنٹ اور رسک اسیسمنٹ کو کاپی پیسٹ کے فارمولے کے تحت فارمیلٹی سمجھ کر ڈرافٹ کرنا، اور ریویو اور اپروول دینے والوں کا چائے پراٹھے یا پھر برگر یا KFC کے زیر اثر آنکھیں بند کر کے سائن کر لینا، HSC ٹیم کی عدم دستیابی یا پھر بے نتیجہ موجودگی، یعنی ان کا پروجیکٹ ٹیم کے سامنے جیسے طوطا بلی کو دیکھ کر آنکھیں بند کر لیتا ہے، آنکھ کان اور دماغ کو تالا لگا لینا کہ کہیں ان کی جاب پر حرف نہ آ جائے۔ مینجمنٹ کا سیفٹی کو سیفٹی بلیٹن بورڈ تک یا پھر سیفٹی پالیسی پر MD صاحب کے سگنیچر تک محدود سمجھنا۔ ورک لوڈ، ورک سٹریس اور ظالمانہ ورکنگ انوائرمنٹ ایسے عوامل ہیں جو حادثات کا سبب بن جاتے ہیں، لوگوں کی زندگی کا خاتمہ کر دیتے ہیں، پروجیکٹ کے لیے، کمپنی کے امیج کے لیے، کہیں بے گناہوں کی زندگی اور کہیں کے کیریئر کے لیے آخری کیل ثابت ہوتے ہیں۔ آپ دیکھ رہے ہیں سیفٹی فرسٹ۔ آئیے اب جانتے ہیں کہ ان حادثات سے بچاؤ کے لیے کیا کرنے سے ہم خود کو، اپنے ساتھیوں کو، اپنے پروجیکٹ اور اپنی کمپنی کی ساکھ کو داغدار ہونے سے بچا سکتے ہیں۔ نمبر 1، پراپر پلاننگ۔ کام شروع کرنے سے پہلے ہیزرڈ آئیڈینٹیفیکیشن اور رسک اسیسمنٹ کا پرفیکٹ استعمال، کام کو اپروو پروسیجرز کے ساتھ کرنا، کام کو سیفلی انجام دینے کے لیے سکلز کی ضرورت ہوتی ہے اور اس کے لیے ورکرز کو باقاعدہ ٹریننگ دے کر انہیں اس کام کا ماہر بنا کر ان سے کام کروانا، کام کرنے کے لیے درست اور سیف پلانٹس اور اکوپمنٹ کا استعمال کرنا، ورک ایٹ ہائٹ ایکٹیویٹی کو پرمٹ کے بغیر کسی صورت اجازت نہ دینا کیونکہ یہ کام انتہائی ہائی رسک کام ہے، فال پروٹیکشن کا بندوبست کرنا، چاہے وہ فال اریسٹ کی صورت میں ہو یا فال ریسٹرینٹ کی صورت، مطلوبہ ریسورسز کو مہیا کرنا جنہیں رسک اسیسمنٹ میں ریکمینڈ کیا گیا ہے یا جو کام کی نوعیت کے حساب یا ٹاسک کی ریکوائرمنٹ کے حساب سے ہونے ضروری ہوں، اسکیفولڈنگ، سیزر لفٹ، مین لفٹ یا پھر موبائل ایلیویٹڈ ورک پلیٹ فارم، جو بھی طریقہ ہو اس کو آپریٹ کرنے والوں کا کمپیٹنٹ ہونا، سکلڈ ہونا اور ٹاسک کے لیے مینٹلی اور فزیکلی فٹ ہونا، کام میں استعمال ہونے والے اکوپمنٹ کا انسپیکٹڈ ہونا، سیف ہونا اور سیف مارکنگ کی موجودگی کو انشور کرنا اور درست طریقے سے استعمال میں لانا، کام کرنے والے آلات کی ریگولر انسپیکشن اور کسی بھی فالٹ کی صورت میں انہیں سائٹ سے نکال پھینکنا، پرسنل پروٹیکٹیو اکوپمنٹ کا درست استعمال اور ہمہ وقت اویلیبلٹی، بالخصوص سیفٹی ہارنس کو پہننے اور اینکریج پوائنٹ سے اٹیچ کرنے کا سیف طریقہ معلوم ہونا، سیڑھی پر کھڑے ہو کر کام کرنے کو اسیس اور اس کی رسک ریٹنگ کے مطابق کنٹرول میجرز کا انتخاب کرنا، ان پروٹیکٹڈ ایجز کی گارڈنگ کرنا، بیریکیڈنگ کرنا، اوپننگز کو بند کرنا اور ان کے ارد گرد سیفٹی لائٹس، بیریئرز اور سائن بورڈز کا ارینج کرنا، ٹاسک کو سٹارٹ کرنے سے پہلے ورکرز کو کام کے خطرات سے آگاہ کرنا اور ایمرجنسی کی صورت میں انہوں نے کیا ایکشن لینا ہے اور ان کی کیا اسپیشل رسپانسبلٹیز ہوں گی کے بارے میں ان کو اپڈیٹ رکھنا، نارمل حالات میں ایمرجنسی ڈرلز کنڈکٹ کرنا تاکہ ورکرز ممکنہ ہنگامی صورتحال سے نمٹنے کے لیے ہمہ وقت تیار ہوں، ورک ایریا کی کنٹینیوس مانیٹرنگ اور سپرویژن، HSC سٹاف کی بھرپور گائیڈنس، کوچنگ، سیف سسٹم آف ورک کی امپلیمنٹیشن سٹینڈرڈ کو انالیسس کرنا اور جہاں ضرورت ہو وہاں پر سیفٹی پریکٹسز کو، سیفٹی پروسیجرز کو انٹرپریٹ کرنا اور انٹروین کرنا تاکہ حادثہ ہونے سے پہلے ایکسیڈنٹل کازز کو ریکٹیفائی کیا جا سکے، نیئر مسز کا رپورٹ کرنا، انویسٹیگیٹ کرنا اور لیسن لرن کو ورک فورس کے ساتھ شیئر کرنا، مینجمنٹ کا سائٹ کا ریگولر ٹور کرنا، انسپیکشن کرنا اور سیف کام کرنے والوں کو اعزازات سے نوازنا، یہ ایسے ٹوٹکے ہیں جو ورکرز کے اندر سیفٹی سے محبت کا جذبہ جگاتے ہیں اور یوں پروجیکٹ بڑی تیزی سے پروگریس کے مناظر طے کرتے ہوئے کمپلیشن کے فیز کی طرف جاتے دکھائی دیتے ہیں۔ دوستو، सीखने के लिए दूसरों के हादसात हमारे लिए सबक होते हैं, मगर जिद्दी बच्चे की तरह खुद के हाथ जलाकर, उंगलियों पर छाले डालकर या फिर हड्डियां तोड़वाकर या फिर नौकरी गंवाकर अगर किसी को समझ लग भी गई तो वो समझ भला किस काम की। सेफ्टी फर्स्ट का मोटिव है आपको हादसे से पहले खबरदार करना, होशियार करना, आपके अंदर जुर्रत और ताकत पैदा करना, आप में छुपे अनजाने खौफ को निकाल फेंकना, आपकी आंखों को एक्सरे मशीन की तरह अंदर तक देखने की सलाहियत बख्शना। जरा सोचो, एक एचएससी सेफ्टी प्रैक्टिशनर हो, वो साइट पर जाए और वहां पर अनसेफ कंडीशंस हों, अनसेफ एक्ट्स हों या फिर अनसेफ बिहेवियर, और उसकी बाज वाली आंखों को ये सब नजर ना आए, उसे साइट का स्टाफ उल्लू बनाकर, दिलासा देकर, उसकी तारीफ के दो बोल बोलकर उसे चूना लगा दे, तो समझ लो अभी आपको जरूरत है सीखने की। एक अच्छा ऑब्जर्वर वो होता है जो पूछता नहीं बल्कि कंडीशंस का बागौर जायजा लेकर छुपी चीजों को भांप लेता है। एक्सीडेंट सिर्फ मटेरियल की अदम दस्तियाबी की वजह से नहीं होते, बल्कि उसके इस्तेमाल ना करने या फिर दुरुस्त इस्तेमाल ना करने की वजह से भी होते हैं। अच्छा लीडर वो होता है जो ताल्लुक उस्तवार करता है, एतमाद देता है, एतमाद लेता है, वर्किंग रिलेशनशिप को डेवलप करता है, क्योंकि अच्छा परफॉर्म करने के लिए आपको टीम की ज़रूरत होती है, टीम को कोचिंग की, और फिर परफॉर्म करने के लिए अच्छे इन्वायरमेंट की ज़रूरत होती है, वो मुहैया करना आपका काम होता है। एक एचएससी प्रैक्टिशनर की जिम्मेदारी होती है वर्कर्स को तालीम देते रहें, समझाते रहें और आगे बढ़ते रहें, लेकिन बस इतना ख्याल रहे कि नासमझी, लाइल्मी और मस्ती में बहुत बड़ा फर्क होता है। मस्ती का इलाज करने के लिए कभी कभी हिटलर भी बनना पड़े तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, क्योंकि आपको अपने वर्कर्स से, वर्क फोर्स से मोहब्बत होनी चाहिए, और मोहब्बत और जंग ऐसी चीज है कि जिसमें सब जायज होता है, नाजायज कुछ नहीं होता। आज के लिए बस इतना ही, फिर मिलते हैं किसी नए टॉपिक के साथ। तब तक के लिए इजाजत, अपना ख्याल रखिएगा, वीडियोस को देखते रहिए, शेयर करते रहिए, क्योंकि इल्म सीखना और फैलाना इबादत का दर्जा रखते हैं। एंड दैट्स इट, ट्रेनिंग सेशन इज ओवर नाउ। इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चन, please ask in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and share the videos. Hope to see you soon with the new HSC tutorial. Till then, take care, good luck, and Allah Hafiz.